Okay, good morning, everybody. How are we all today? It's afternoon now, actually. It is March. That was just March weather. Sorry, March 21st, 2026. Okay, we have a little discussion going on in the comments already. First of all, Javid Shah Free Iran 2026 is happy that I have returned, and he bought the 2-volume complete Conan the Barbarian by Robert Howard. Yes, it's good stuff. I am, of course, a Howard purist for the most part. I don't care for the El Sprog de Camp, the Conantics, if you will. Although some of the comic book stories are okay. Like the Dark Horse ones are really good, but those are mostly based on the Howard stories. Anyway, you're probably wondering where I've been. As I said in a post on my channel, I do, in fact, want to make more scripted videos, and I have been working on that. I have been working on a new video, working on it when I can. Hopefully I could get it done by tomorrow. If not, then sometime next week. For you see, the public school system always has to make some new bullshit make work to do. Not satisfied enough with me writing lesson plans every week, I have to write lesson plans in a different way, using different phrasing. Because the superintendent says so. In addition to that, I was told explicitly by the vice principal of my school that I have to essentially give pointless busy work each and every class. Because, just giving them a homework assignment and having them work on it quietly, well, that's just uncalled for. It has to be bell-to-bell instruction, Mr. Halleck. We can't have dead periods. And never mind the fact that the kids are quietly working. Apparently that's not good enough. Boy, you know what's great? Like weenie administrators who know nothing about what goes on in a classroom, but they think they can tell us teachers what to do. In fact, I'll just tell you, that is what the upcoming video will be on. Weenie administrators. Tony Gilbert says, what, that's stupid. Yes, I agree. And I was telling my wife this. Back in the days of the Soviet Union, one of the ways that the Gulag would punish people, which is, more subtle than just, beatings and starvation, but was arguably more insidious, was that they would give prisoners meaningless work to do. Hard, grueling, backbreaking labor that accomplished nothing. So it would simultaneously, hurt their bodies, but also break their spirits. And, do this yourself if you don't believe me. Just give yourself a task to do that accomplishes nothing. It's soul-crushing. Like in the Gulag, they would have to do things like, you dig a hole and then you fill up the hole. Or you would, move rocks from one area of the camp to another and then move them back. Just work that accomplished dick. And David Graeber actually discusses this in Bullshit Jobs. But yeah, I've never liked pointless busy work, but if it's going to keep me employed, then by God, I have to do it. In addition to working on a scripted video, I also have been rewriting my seminal book, my first book, The Oriental's Guide to Sex, Strength, and Satisfaction, and the rewrite is actually done. I put in all the new content. It's rewritten, got some new pictures, a couple new chapters. It just needs to be formatted and edited. Then it'll be up for sale. So that's what I've been working on as well. I've also been toying with some fictional writing. I've been working on... Tony Gilbert asked, I don't have tenure. No, I've been there for 3 years. Next year is my tenure year. So basically, basically in this school district that I'm in, if you make it 4 years, then you are up for tenure. And even with tenure, it's a selection process. Like, you could go 4 years and just be like, nah, we're not giving you tenure. Go fuck yourself. So it's a bit of a toss-up. But yes, anyway, I've also been, just jotting down a few rough ideas for a series of, pulp, vaguely Robert Howard-ish fantasy novellas, which I've been working on. Mainly because I was, as I've mentioned before, me and my wife and my friend have been trying to get a fourth for D&D for a while. So in the absence of doing so, I've been coming up with a character backstory. And I kind of like the ideas I come up with, so I'm going to, develop that a bit once this book gets published. It's apparently, or every now and then, it's, you get, people commenting on how Asian American diaspora literature is just absolute horseshit. Just endless rehashes of, little white Timmy made fun of my stinky tofu lunch, and my mom's an abusive bitch. But I also want to furiously grab every white cock I see, which I also mentioned briefly in the second edition of my book, by the way. But yeah, so I want to write some works of fiction that are not about that, which I think will be good for the community, so to speak. It'll be good to write just a red-blooded, two-fisted, fantasy series full of, furious violence and objectified women. Kidding, of course. Well, no, there's going to be women, but not. They're going to be proactive, but also not. Kidding. But anyway, I'm not going to talk too much about it because it's not written yet. So just keep an eye out for that at some point in the future. I've also been applying for summer jobs. These are all just excuses for why I haven't made a video yet. But yes, expect that video soon. Like, I do want to do scripted videos. Ideally, I would do like one live stream and then one scripted video and then just kind of counterbalance that. Will I be able to pull off that schedule? Probably not, but we'll try our best. I had some comments. Tony Gilbert, referring to the gulag, says they move sand and stuff. Yes, that was also useless labor they did. The Condemned to Useless Labor Party. Tony Gilbert says you're from Maryland, right? Guess it's different there. Yeah, it's different per each school district. And yeah, once you get tenure in New Jersey, it's the same thing. You're basically untouchable unless you like punch and or molest a student, which I won't ever do, of course. But yeah, getting tenure is a bit tricky. Ponythroat says, isn't tenure like a company that promises a pension after 20 years of service, aka get fired after 19 years and 364 days? Well, yeah, except it's 4 years for teachers. Now, I say I would never punch or molest a student. I would almost let me rephrase that. I will certainly never sexually abuse a student. Like, I don't go for underage girls. That's just straight up, that is not ever happening. There's a, let's say, 10% chance I might punch a student in the face, though. Just saying. On the subject of pointless jobs, Rick J.D. says the dystopian Belgian comic Authorized Happiness had people doing pointless busywork just to say people are getting jobs. Yes, that was also a thing in communist societies in general. I've heard anecdotes from people I know who have come from the Soviet Union that you go to the grocery store and there'd be like 6 clerks behind the desk just to say everybody has a job. That's part of the Soviet strategy, to point to, evil capitalist America, and they could say, hey, look, you capitalist pig dogs, we have 0 unemployment in our country. Which, technically true, I guess. But those people were doing pointless redundancies and inefficient labor. Also, fun fact, parasitism, aka being unemployed and or homeless, was literally a crime in the Soviet Union. Speaking of communism in class, and eventually I'm going to get to actually doing the things I was going to schedule to talk about. I was talking about the Chinese Cultural Revolution in class the other day, and of my, about almost 90 students I have in global studies, a grand total of 4 of them had ever heard of Enter the Dragon, which I mentioned because, I mentioned anecdotally that during the filming of Enter the Dragon, they would wake up in the morning and see bodies floating down the Pearl River Delta, dead bodies from the Communist Cultural Revolution. I also mentioned how Bolo Young swam across the Delta from the mainland to Hong Kong. Because, screw communism. I had to restrain myself from referring to him as jiggling man titties, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, the song we opened up with, finally getting to the point of this, was The Delta Force by Alan Silvestri, from the film of the same name. I was originally going to open up with Mustafa by Queen, because we have Iran-related news. Freddie Mercury, of course, being a Parsi, Persian refugee from India, by way of Zanzibar, by way to London. But then, I of course heard the news that Chuck Norris is no more. Chuck Norris passed away peacefully at the age of 86, surrounded by family in the hospital in Hawaii. So when I heard that, I said, we got to do the Delta Force theme. Okay, the Delta Force, of course, being his, glorious opus from 1986, co-starring Lee Marvin, who is always drunk and violent, according to Homer Simpson. And, it's good, 80s schlock. Now, when you watch the 80s action movies, you do have to realize, of course, that to a large extent, many of them are just the Reagan administration furiously beating off, which is... I've actually had this conversation with a young lady years ago. I was describing her the difference between Rambo 1 and Rambo 2. I told her Rambo 1, First Blood, is a thoughtful and meditative story about the marginalization of Vietnam War veterans, and it literally ends with Rambo openly weeping like a child in the arms of his commanding officer. The second one is the Reagan administration furiously beating off as he goes back and retroactively wins Vietnam. Clearly there was a tonal shift there, and some of the eulogies I've read for Chuck Norris seem to indicate that his work was sort of that bridge between the, thoughtful and introspective 1970s and early 80s action movies to the roided up, Reagan-era action movies. Which is an interesting point to be made. Chuck Norris, of course, not a steroid user. Also, he might legitimately be the most legit, real badass of all the action heroes. But, was he the best actor? No, but he got the job done. His last theatrical movie was that one with the dog. What was it, Top Dog? Yeah, I mean, I like his 80s oeuvre better. Invasion USA is always my favorite of his. I find that his 70s film, Slaughter in San Francisco, is wildly underwhelming considering its title. But, Chuck Norris is no more. I usually go to the pop culture stuff later on, but this does kind of relate to the news. So, I guess we should talk about this now. Yes, Chuck Norris dies in Hawaii at the age of 86. He had a medical emergency. No one knows what it was exactly. Okay, people have mixed feelings about him. Those who knew him said he was one of a kind, including Danny Trejo, who said so. Politicians praised him, including Benjamin Netanyahu from Israel. More on that in a second. While some people complained about him, they didn't like him because he had conservative political views. I mean, look, from what I've read and what I've heard, putting his political views aside, by all accounts, he was a really nice guy. He was very polite and nice and, gracious to people. So, I don't think he was a bad person. Rest in peace, Chucky baby. But yeah, Variety had some things to say about him. Politics overshadow his legacy. Talking about how, he was a Trump supporter, he was a conservative. They also said that Walker Texas Ranger embodies quote unquote American exceptionalism. Which, I mean, I think there's more overt things you can criticize from a Walker Texas Ranger. And by the way, that Variety tweet has community notes. Chuck Norris killed his shadow while shadowboxing. Chuck Norris can never, in fact, be overshadowed. Well said. Yes, the tributes pour in. William Shatner. It is with great sorrow that I hear about the passing of Chuck Norris. He was a longtime friend, a wonderful athlete and actor. He shall be missed. Yeah, damn straight he was a outstanding athlete. Legit 6-time world karate champion. Okay, let's see who else is tributing to him. Danica McKellar, the race car driver. Keanu Reeves. Joey Swole. He's a fitness influencer, etc., etc. Yeah, John Cena, and so on and so forth. Yes, Chuck Norris is dead. Maybe we all ride machine gun motorcycles and shoot terrorists in his honor. Yes, the movie Delta Force, I do like it, but yeah, there's a very neat point where it stops being based on reality and it just becomes pure fantasy. I mean, it's literally two movies. One is what actually happened, and the second half is what we wish happened. Now, in real life, they just negotiated for the hostages. In the movie, of course, you had Chuck Norris and Lee Marvin like popping wheelies and shooting machine guns on motorcycles. That did not happen, but we wish it did. Hey, Tony Gilbert says they never heard of Enter the Dragon. Yes, I mean, there were a few kids who had seen Enter the Dragon, like 4 out of almost 90. But, yeah, most of them hadn't heard of it. Although one kid, when I showed the picture of, I had a picture of Bolo Young in the Pearl River Delta. It's the very famous bit from Bloodsport where he's pointing, and he's going, you are next. And I said, yeah, I bet Bolo made this exact face as he pointed across the water to freedom in Hong Kong. And I heard somebody go Chong Li, so I guess they haven't seen Enter the Dragon, but they've seen Bloodsport. Or is Chong Li like a meme that the kids are doing nowadays? Is that like a TikTok thing? I'm just going to briefly look that up. It is not. Hey. Ponythroat says, there are kids in your class who don't even remember Chuck Norris jokes and memes. I'm sure they don't. Yeah, like Chuck Norris jokes, that was like big when I was in high school, and that was, almost 20 years ago. Tony Gilbert says all they had to do was leave Rambo alone. He just wanted to get lunch at a diner, and they drew first blood, not him. Brick JD says people hated that Variety article, just showed the journalist's profile picture, nothing more. Base Lankovich says, ironically, I just finished watching Rambo First Blood and Rambo 2, and all this just happens. Oh, nice to see you back in the fold, Larsen. Yeah, it all kind of comes together in this glorious Ragnarok of neoconservative horseshit. Oh yeah, also Mean Joe Green died, but that's just a minor footnote compared to the Chuckster. So yeah, the Iran thing. Remember when Donald Trump promised to not get us involved in wars? Boy, that didn't happen. Yeah, that sure didn't happen. Okay. Now, of course, the Iranian regime has killed many thousands of protesters, but naturally that means that we have to just jump in and get involved. I disagree personally. Could it be, in fact, that Variety might have a point, that all this, greased up muscle men, flag waving and, brat shoot 'em up stuff may have affected people's mindset on this issue? I mean, I'm sure the boomers and Gen Xers were affected by it. So yes, the United States has killed the Ayatollah and several other Ayatollahs. Homer Simpson was right in that all the Ayatollahs are consolidating their power simultaneously. Iran has allegedly bombed some American bases in the Middle East, and it's just a complete clusterfuck. It's not good. The United States just bought Iranian oil whilst we're in the middle of war with Iran. Does war mean anything at this point? I don't know. I mean, was America buying stuff from the Soviets during the Cold War? No, in fact, we were actually giving them food to, help the massive famines that their idiocy caused, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, there's bombings. Iran's Natanz nuclear facility was struck today. It's all fog of war. Nobody knows exactly what's going on. But we've been there 3 weeks. Trump says we're almost 100% done here. We are not. People are saying that in addition to bombing, there's going to be boots on the ground. And by boots, they of course mean American boots. Because not like anyone else is going to do a damn thing. Some people are saying it best. When you fuck up so bad, you got to stop sanctioning the country you're at war with. I've also heard, rumors here and then about soldiers deliberately sabotaging vehicles so they don't have to go. If that is the case, I say that is good. Ponythread says all the classic forever war signs. Oil is the main goal. Bombing campaign that ultimately achieves dick. Done on behalf of Israel, but paid for with American taxpayer money. Classic. Yeah, do be that way, Mr. Stancil. It's really hard for me to explain to people that, the United States is literally not fighting to win. The United States is literally fighting just to keep the war going in and of itself. The whole WikiLeaks things kind of show that, because the defense contractors literally make more money if the war just goes on forever than if they decisively win. I don't know, maybe the United States needs a big, embarrassing slap in the face to, snap us out of this, forever war crap. Dare I say, I would almost welcome it. These people are very, very, very stupid. Let me tell you how stupid they are. I've literally seen commentators saying, well, what do you mean we're in a war? America hasn't been at war since World War II. America hasn't been at war since World War II. Let me repeat that again. America has not been at war since World War II. I don't think so. I really hate this mealy mouth sophistry horseshit where everyone's like, oh well, we didn't declare war, so I guess it doesn't count as a war. It's just some other thing where we send bombs and missiles and soldiers to kill people in other countries. Perhaps it's a birthday party. And from what I've seen, the war has 80% disapproval ratings. So I genuinely don't understand why, why there aren't just mass walkouts and people refusing to go. Or maybe there are. There's a video going around showing, them asking people why they joined the army. And it's just I need money or something like that. There's also this one woman who looks like she's eating crayons, which I'm not entirely surprised by. I don't know, maybe these cretins need to be the ones we send in. I don't know, why... I don't know why or when this country developed an endless appetite to just eat shit and like the taste of it. As I subtly convey to my students, it was fairly common for armed protests and even gunfights with police in this country up until the 1970s. In fact, America was notorious for having violent labor disputes and things like that. But I guess that's gone now. Ponythorpe says this is the American equivalent of Russia's special military operation. Yeah, something like that. I'm 34 years old, so I highly doubt I'm gonna get drafted. But if I do, I've already decided I'm gonna look him in the eye and say, "Take me to jail instead. Fuck you." I think, like, as a country, we should do that. Just as a movement on the whole. Will we? Probably not. I don't know, this just seems like a cluster frig, and nobody knows what they're doing, and it sucks. We just got out of 2 forever wars in Iran and Afghanistan. You know, Iran, I guess you could consider a win in that I'm sorry, Iraq. Iraq, I guess you could consider that a win in that we propped up a bullshit government and it's still standing for the time being. Afghanistan was a total disaster. Just the sheer forces of entropy and inertia and terrible, terrible push-ups kind of, let that fail. But apparently they didn't have enough of forever wars. We're going to do it again. Okay. Ponyfoot says America was also notorious for having high living standards and good pay. Yes, we did. Know what they say, decent pay flows from the barrel of a gun. Yeah, it's really hard for me to tell my students that, yes, America did at one point have the highest standard of living in the world. Oh, those days are long gone. Yeah, I mean, you had there's that documentary, Harlan County, USA. It was about like the on and off coal wars that went on in West Virginia. Even in the 70s, you still had people like arming themselves to fight like gun-toting thugs who were in the pocket of the big bosses. Why do we not teach this in schools? I don't know. Like, why do we not teach about like the Battle of Blair Mountain and the Battle of Athens, Tennessee, and the Great Railroad Strike and Nate Champion? The Range Wars and the Wild West. I mean, I would teach about that all the time. I mean, I do try to bring it up in like my civics classes, very subtly. But apparently I'm alone in this. Hey, let's check out some comments here. Taco Bill Lugosi says, God bless Chuck Norris, a real martial artist. R.I.P. Yes, indeed. Oh yeah, fun fact, on Twitter I saw the other day, there was once a poll done in the 1960s where African exchange students were stunned that Americans of all classes were willing to really get their hands dirty and work. Well, I guess that's not the case now, if you believe the rich people telling us that Americans don't want to work, and that's why we need to bring in, like, hundreds of millions of, 4-foot-tall peasants. Biff Sankovich says, the national parks can't show the museum films about the knitting mills in Lowell, Massachusetts. I was not aware of that, sir. But I'll take your word for it. Seem to know what you're talking about. All right, what else is in the news? Hey, Tony Gilbert says, it's crazy. Only Jackie Chan is left who fought Bruce Lee. I mean, I was going to say Bolo Young, but he never actually fought Bruce Lee. He fought some of the fake Bruce Lees. I'm sure he fought Bruce Lee or Bruce Lai or, Lung Bruce. But no, he never fought the OG. Well, they'll all be dead soon. So, yeah, what else is going on? See what's trending? Apparently Miami Vice is trending. Okay, this is another... they're remaking Miami Vice again as a movie. The last reboot sucked donkey dick, so screw that. Okay, what else is going on? Okay, so Looking at the news, there's an ongoing fertility crisis in rich countries. Bronze Age pervert, internet commentator, Constantu Romanus, whatever the hell his name is. His actual identity, not the handsome rugby player that he posts pictures of, the, 45-year-old pot-bellied Romanian that he actually is. He publishes an article proposing solutions to the fertility crisis in J'accuse magazine. He wants to create an atmosphere of total abandon with enthusiastic public sexuality, reverence for the phallus, lavish musical festivals, and pleasure quarters. He advocates shrinking the age window for women's major benefits. Bronze Age pervert, of course, being one of the main, Manosphere guys such as it exists nowadays. I'm sure he would deny that, but he is. And like most of the Manosphere guys nowadays, he talks about, fertility in women, but somehow manages to be incredibly gay while doing it. I'm sorry. When you write down the phrase, lavish, sex music festivals and phallic reverence, you really need to take a step back and just take a step back and realize what you're saying. I'm sorry, why does nobody realize that Bronze Age pervert is just a flaming mo? He is as gay as you can be. And again, there's nothing wrong with being gay. I just want to make that clear. I have nothing against the gays, but I have something against lying and chicanery. And he lies about many things, not the least of which is his physical appearance. Hey. Look at some comments here. Space Pope says, I wouldn't say I want to work, but I'm definitely an active age-willing construction worker. Hey, I respect that. That's a tough job. I used to do some construction myself. I did furniture moving. I did construction. I worked as a janitor. I've done plenty of minimum wage bitch work. Tony Gilbert says, yes, the fake Bruces. There were like 20 of them. LOL. Yeah, Bruce Lung passed away a few weeks ago, so I did a whole thing on that. Space Pope and Tony Gilbert sarcastically talk about the new Miami Vice. The last one was bad. Why? Yeah, the Jamie Foxx and Colin Farrell Miami Vice. Oh, that was bad. That was the only movie I ever walked out of. And I've seen a lot of shit. But yeah, that was the only movie I ever literally just got up and walked out of. I don't understand how Michael Mann could have done a movie that bad. I like Michael Mann's stuff. I like Heat. I like Last of the Mohicans, but he just whiffed on that one. Ponythroat says aspirin is still around. That fought Bruce Lee and won. Yeah, well said. Biff Slankovich says, analog media is coming back in style. VHS tapes, CDs, and discs for movies. People are tired of streaming commercials interfering with movie watching. Well, yes, that, and if you have physical media, they can't, censor it or just delete it like they do with streaming. Ponythroat and Tony Gilbert talking about BAP's solutions for fertility. Tony Gilbert says it sounds like a cult. Ponythroat says, are BAP solutions to the problem by any chance boiling down to gay oil orgies? That is literally what his solutions are. He is very, very, very fruity, Mr. BAP. Okay, Ponythroat says, I understood that reference, Flaming Mo. But Tony Gilbert says, I've had a Flaming Mo. I would ask who's making Flaming Mo's from The Simpsons, but I guess I'm not surprised. They recreate all kind of recipes from, shows and movies and stuff. Yeah, we'll come back to the Manosphere being incredibly gay a little later. But for now, there is more news. Okay. In political news, left-wing political news, okay, 50-year-old allegations of sexual abuse come for Cesar Chavez, founder of the United Farm Workers Union. I guess it's some he said, she said thing because, it's from 50 years ago. I question why nobody said anything back then. But, regardless of your opinions on the issue, I've personally, I noticed years ago that people kind of stopped talking about Cesar Chavez for a while, possibly because he was vehemently against illegal immigration, to the point where he and the UFW literally formed, border militias and, beat the shit out of, illegals trying to cross the border. I'll let you decide for yourself whether that had anything to do with his unpersoning. But I do have to say, I am bewildered, but also kind of impressed at how quickly everybody just started covering up, things named after him. Within 12 hours, places all around California were just blotting out his name and unpersoning him forever. Dare I say, it's a bit Stalin-esque. I should point out that California has been trying for the better part of 30 years to build high-speed rail, and they can't do that. But erasing a guy based on allegations that may or may not have occurred, they just Lightspeed got rid of that crap. I know, isn't there a statute of limitations on these sort of allegations? I don't know. I don't know if they're true or not. They may be. They may not be. I'm just saying, I can think of several other people in that same political sphere who are guilty of equal or even worse sex crimes, and they're not being unpersoned. Personally, I think it's the illegal immigration thing that they're vehemently against. See, we're going on to let's do some international news for a second here. Okay, so let's go to. Oh, Tony Gilbert says there's a Simpsons part in Universal Studios that has the bar in Simpsons Land. That's interesting. If they ever make that Nintendo Land at Universal, wherever it is, they better have that alcoholic milk from Majora's Mask to drink, because I'll buy a big pitcher of that. And fun fact, there literally is alcoholic milk beverages. So you wouldn't even have to try very hard. Just serving up a big jug of Irag, label it Chateau Romani, and leave it at that. Anyway, going to international news, let's go to Nigeria. Okay, so in Nigeria, there's a group of people called the Ozoro. They live in Delta State, Nigeria, not to be confused with Delta Force. Every year they have a fertility festival, Aluedo, on March 19th. It featured so many mob attacks on women that angry people are protesting, calling it Rape Day on Nigerian social media. So traditionally, it's supposed to be a tribal tradition of hazing, young people who have not, put a ring on it and produced children. Over the years, this has devolved into just fisticuffs and sexual abuse. I see. Yes, seek free treatment immediately. Rape, rape, rape. Claratown Clinic, New Crewtown Hospital, Island Hospital. So says the hand-painted billboard. Let me see if I can find a bit more information about these Nigerian shenanigans. Okay, it is not supposed to be the rape festival, but they're that's what they're calling it. And obviously this is not all Nigerian people. A lot of people are protesting this. And people are a bit upset. I mean, I'm sure BAP would like this, but, well, no, I wouldn't, because it's like men assaulting women, and BAP is not in favor of that. I'm sure BAP is much like Ernst Röhm, that he wants a society where virile, middle-aged men, gang plow, little twink boys. So for what it's worth, people who planned the festival have been arrested by Nigerian police. So that's good, at least. yes, I do think if your festival has so much sexual abuse, you can literally call it the Grape Festival. Look at me trying to censor myself as if I haven't said the word rape like 20 times already. Yeah, I think you need to stand down and not do that festival. Okay. Tony Gilbert says, there's no evidence. I need evidence before I take stuff down. Yes, I agree. I'm not saying we should discount the allegations against Mr. Chavez. Just, we need some evidence is all. And just, I don't know, I find it a little suspicious that nobody said anything for like 50 years. Okay, Ponythroat says, IROG is often made of horse milk. Super high sugar content means it's going to be fermented. I mean, all milk has sugars, so I think you could just ferment any old milk. Yes, yes, it is traditionally horse milk. Okay, okay, let's see what else we got here. So apparently there is a Nintendo Land. So yeah, I don't know what they're stopping. Like, it's make that damn Chateau Romani alcoholic milk. Okay, now I'm looking up other alcoholic milks. Okay, Kumis or Irog is fermented horse milk. There's Kalpis. I'm sorry, that's not actually. Shal or Kortmog is fermented camel milk. Is there fermented cow milk? Let's see. Let's see. Well, whatever. Ponythroat says horse milk is significantly higher in sugar content than cow milk. I'm an expert in this field. I will take your word for it. Ponythroat says people in Nigeria now know what people in Sweden feel like. Well said. So I looked up alcoholic milk, and then I just found a bunch of cocktails made with milk. Not just the old school, like the Mongolian OG stuff. Okay, there's also Tarasun, which is drunk by the Boryats of Siberia. That's also horsey milk. Okay, so apparently cow milk isn't good enough. The horse milk is sweeter. What I thought says fermented cow milk is also known as cheese. Well, obviously I know about buttermilk and cheese, pal. I mean, like, alcoholic milk, I should say. I am told that Russian colonizers could extract milk from stellar sea cow. So perhaps manatees and dugongs have milk that can be made into alcoholic beverages. The question is, of course, who's going to volunteer to go swim down and milk a manatee? Tony Gilbert says, camel milk? Nah, I'm good. Yeah, the Romani Ranch in Majora's Mask was a dairy farm, so I'm going to wager that alcoholic milk was cow milk. But I don't see why you couldn't just sell IRAG and just, you don't have to specify what kind of milk it is. But, whatever. Anyway, let us move on to some other international news. Breaking news. From Spain, the King of Spain, Felipe VI, acknowledges there were many controversies and abuses in the conquest of the Americas. You don't say. Hey, I mean, it's been 500 years, but at least you acknowledge it now. I mean, just in terms of sheer numbers, they killed a lot more people than the Anglos did. And people are really upset about this. Some people, at least. Namely, Latin American Hispanistas, the people who, lean hard into, the European side of, their Hispanic culture, as opposed to indigenistas, who lean more to the Native American side of their cultures. Bear in mind that being actually Native American or Creole does not necessarily mean you're one or the other. There's a reason why there's that meme of, like, Mexicans be like, and it's like a white guy. He's like, I'm an Aztec. And it's like a Native American guy. I'm a Spaniard. But, yeah, some people are not happy about this. Okay? And I quote from Spanish, Spain saved the indigenous race. The Anglo-Saxons exterminated them. Long live Spain. Yeah, that's one way to put it. Press X to doubt. Okay, and then, people go on and on and on about this. And so on and so forth. And then the rest of the comments are just really loud, violent arguments between Hispanistas and Indigenistas. But yeah, there's no need to whitewash this. Like, I mean, say what you will about the Anglos, at least they acknowledge they did bad stuff. But no, I feel like most Spanish people would actually acknowledge that. But no, there's a certain group of people, they're like, no, man, it was nothing. It was just, they just came and they intermarried and everyone was just dancing around the trees. Yeah, I don't think so. Tony Gilbert says it's a federal law. You can't touch a manatee. That's a shame. Ponythroat says cetacean milk would not ferment. It has a very high fat content, very low sugar content. It's also very thick, like toothpaste. That's kind of disgusting. Okay, let's go back to America. No matter how hard we want otherwise. Okay, so Six Flags is having a bit of a problem. They're rolling out new age restrictions and curfews throughout spring break. The company battles rampant nuisance from its hashtag younger customers, sparking mixed reactions amongst park goers. So basically, all guests 17 or younger must be accompanied by a chaperone who's at least 21 years old. So you can't just have roving bands of teens, gadding about, causing problems. Now, I'm not an amusement park person myself. I don't own an amusement park. I don't, I don't run an amusement park. So, let's just apply this blanket standard. I don't know who's doing this. But, if it helps them maintain order, perhaps it'll be good. Tony Gilbert says Spain is weird, man. Ponythroat says the population density difference between North and Central America is an overlooked factor. There are way more people in Central America. Yes, that is absolutely true. I mean, I'm not saying, like, the Anglos weren't cruel and brutal, because they certainly were. But just in terms of sheer numbers, the Spanish killed a lot more people than we did. And again, a major part of that is because they had, large-scale urban civilization in Central and South America to a much larger extent than North America. Like, yes, I know there were a few urban centers in North America, like the Cahokian Mounds and the Pueblos and Southwest. But for the most part, they weren't there. Like, there's no ruins, there's no evidence. Whereas you go to Guatemala or Mexico, like, you can't take a piss without hitting a ball court or a pyramid or something. Okay, so Tony Gilbert says at least they finished that cathedral after 400 years. The Sagrada Familia. Tony Gilbert says the same with the imperialists in Japan. They deny anything happened. Yes, they do. Tony Gilbert says the hoodlums. They ruined my Six Flags. I drive 4 hours to go to one. Yes, that is a problem. How do we stop the hoodlums? The younger customers. Perhaps there are some solutions, not from the amusement park industry, but from the restaurant industry. Let's see what Ruth's Chris Steakhouse has to say about this. It is the Chris Steakhouse that belongs to Ruth. Let's see what Ruth's Chris Steakhouse has to say about this. Okay. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, I'm just kind of having fun here, has a new dress code. Customers must wear business casual. If you do not comply, you must go to the bar or leave. Kindly remove all hats while entering the restaurant. Guests wearing ball caps must go to the bar. The following attire is not permitted in our dining rooms: gym wear, pool attire, tank tops, clothing with offensive graphics and language, revealing clothing or exposed underwear. How do you feel about this? I don't think that's a problem per se. I mean, it is a private business. They have a right to set up a dress code. And personally, I've eaten at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse once. It was good steak. It was also very expensive. So, I haven't been there since then. But, if it helps, it helps. Again, it's a private business. They have a right to a dress code. I think there is something subconscious to be said about, people have to wear nice clothes. They will behave themselves. Tony Glover says, Hershey Park ain't putting up with it, LOL. Well, we'll see. It would be nice to have public places that we can go to. We'll see. Maybe the Ruth's Chris Steakhouse rule will, affect things. And personally, what I think is much cheaper is you could just blast classical music on speakers. Classical music has negative effects upon negative people. This has been seen many times. I mean, I'm personally of the opinion that people should dress better just in general. Shinseki Evans says, I'm not going to a place with such a stupid name. Yeah, if you go to the restaurant, there's actually like a convoluted story about how they got the name. First it was Chris's Steakhouse. Then it was bought out by somebody named Ruth. So it's Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Like, it's Chris's Steakhouse owned by Ruth. I don't see why you couldn't just call it Ruth Steakhouse. Or just RC Steakhouse. But maybe that's why I'm not a rich and famous restaurateur. Okay, we're going to wind things down a little bit. Interesting news is coming from the workplace, the HR department. Now, hopefully this isn't affecting any of you. I still have my full-time job, but I am applying for a summer job. Make a little extra money during summer vacation. So maybe this is going to affect me. Actually, it won't, perhaps. Here's this headline. Gen Z is dating less. The result is one of the most unprepared workforce. What does dating have to do with working a job? I have not the slightest idea, but apparently this is going to affect your hiring capacity. Mr. Obvious says, imagine not getting a job because some foid HR manager thinks you're an incel who isn't qualified because you lack a dating experience. I don't know, personally, I feel like men who don't date tend to be very good workers. I mean, they're dedicated full-time to the job, are they not? I mean, I guess this probably makes a lot of sense to the, 30-something hashtag girl boss who runs an HR department. But, as a man, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, some people are arguing that, well, this just shows, your social skills. If you can't date, then you don't have the good social skills to work in an office. I mean, it's very interesting to me, considering that, if anything, I, min-maxed on, sexual and romantic dating skills to the point where my platonic social skills kind of suffered a bit. And I had to work on that for a while before I finally, was able to hold a job. I don't know, like somebody stop the HR bras before they're too late. Gruff McPaws says, I can't get a date because fake job girl bosses won't date underemployed losers. I can't get a good job because fake job girl bosses won't hire dateless losers. The girl boss Ouroboros of societal abuse. Hey, well, I'm a married man, so I guess I've passed the, HR broad test. Yeah, in your face, that one very specific picture of Anne Hathaway that they use to represent, HR biddies. I mean, it sucks for the incels. But then again, incels have a pretty rough hand in life in general, so, I guess dumping on them is kind of like pissing on a man while he's drowning. Hey, Tony Gilbert says Ruth Chris is overrated. And Ponythroat says RC Steakhouse sounds so much like RC Cola. I haven't had one of those in years, says Tony Gilbert. I don't think I've ever actually had an RC Cola. I mean, it is actually something I find interesting, like the kind of like, janky, like B-tier, like sodas and candies. Yeah, occasionally if I have to get a soda, like I'm just gonna go to the dollar store, get some Stars and Stripes. That's, it's sugar water that gives you the diabetes. Doesn't need to be fancier than that. Tony Gilbert says, good, I don't need a youngster trying to touch me anyways, lol. Ponythroat says, if social skills are important, then it's probably not a real job. Dig the hole, Kulak. I mean, to an extent, like, as a teacher, I need, like, some minimum modicum of social skills. Then again, I also have the capacity to yell, stop talking to a student. And by yell, I mean sternly talk, of course. But, yeah, for the most part, jobs that require you to predominantly have social skills are, some of them are real jobs. Like, obviously, you need some people in human resource. You need somebody to talk to the customers. But a lot of these are just, bullshit make-work jobs. Tony Gilbert says, RC isn't janky. It's a brand that was out before Pepsi. Just saying. I did not know that. To look that up. Okay, well, 1901. Hey, I mean, they're still around. You could probably find them. I'm sure they're sold in, like, Bush League stores that you can't get anywhere else. I mean, Dollar General in New Jersey is the only place you can buy handicap hot fries. For anyone who remembers those. Probably dating myself there a lot with mentions of handicap hot fries. Okay. And finally, in celebrity news, and also going back to what I promised earlier about the Manosphere being incredibly gay, the Manosphere picked, occasionally picked some stupid lady thing to get mad at and vent their frustration on. How every so often they rage impotently at, SEC, like, sorority biddies, like, dancing about in videos. Yeah, that's apparently a thing. And this week was, of course, no exception. Not because of that specifically, but something broadly similar. A group of Manosphere dweebs got really angry at a viral video from Lollapalooza, Chile, in which singer Sabrina Carpenter sings the song "Man-Child," and they just got really furiously pissed off at it. How dare these women call men useless? Boy, man, if they went back to 1992 and they heard "No Scrubs" by TLC, their heads would have exploded. Anyway, why do I mention this is incredibly gay? Well, I'm just saying. I say this as a 34-year-old man who could not possibly care less about what some pop girl has to sing about. If you're a man and you're really intensely focused on the lyrics of some, like, chick pop song, I got news for you. You're probably gay. Like, this man, triple gay, as Cuphead would put it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like, I thought these, Manosphere guys were supposed to be, looks maxing, hitting themselves in the head with hammers and, like, focusing on being, Nietzschean Ubermenschen. Ironically, because they're actually, like, the last man, if anything. But, no, they're just really focused on celebrity gossip and very performatively feminine bitchiness. Yeah, guys, I know that your average Manosphere guy is, like, not at all tuned into anything outside of his Discord chats, but, the broads singing performative man-hating songs kind of been a thing for a while. Like, a long while. And the fact that you're so out of touch with popular culture they don't even know this, it's slightly perturbing to me. I do have to say, though, I did find one comment pretty funny. A tweet said, "This bitch calls men useless and she can't even climb into a mid-size SUV without help." To which the singer replied, "Yes, I can." It's funny to make fun of short people. But, yeah, I'm just saying, as a man, I don't wake up in the morning furiously angry at the gossiping going-ons of some pop girly. And, I was under the impression that boys who care a lot about what pop divas sing about probably don't like girls very much. But, what do I know? Maybe I'm just ignorant. Tony Gilbert agrees with me. Those kids would have died in the 90s. That's literally what I said. Yeah, have one of these guys listen to No Scrubs or, like, Short Dick Man. Like, they would have, like, been driven to a suicidal depression. But that's what happens when you do nothing but read, like, long Discord and Substack posts about how you personally deserve to have a government-mandated girlfriend. Anyway, that does it for my prepared remarks. You can say your last pieces now, should you desire. Okay, the Ponythroat says the pickup arsenal's mystery can step into a shower without a ladder. Huh, I didn't know he was that short. I mean, I know Tucker Max is much shorter than he claims to be. He claims to be a 6-footer. He's like 5'7". But yeah, I didn't know Mystery was a shorty. I know Vince Kelvin, or whatever the hell his name is. He's like 5'1". But yeah, I mean, this is the first time I've ever engaged with any of this sort of thing. You know, I don't really notice the celebrity gossip all that much. Although, you know, I will say that of the pop divas, Taylor Swift is the only one who nickels and dimes me for sheet music, so, you know, I guess the other ones have that in their favor. You know, again, I don't blame Taylor Swift for doing so. I mean, she worked for Jeff Jarrett as a teenager, so his penny-pinching ways probably rubbed off on her. Tony Gilbert says, glad you're making videos again, Lars. We want to find the Pink Man one day and make him return. Yes, hopefully that video will be done tomorrow, and if not, then sometime next week. But it will definitely be done. Like, I've got the recordings, I've got the images, just got to put it all together. And so that does my prepared remarks for Larsen Halleck. This has been Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day.